Hi, this is Zach Meir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Thursday, the 4th of September. Starting with the FTSE 100, which is safely ensconced within that rising trend channel from June, the floor of the channel there around the 91.30 level. Above that, we're looking for the top of the channel as high as 94.50 by the end of next month. Obviously, hoping for it could be a bit sooner. On the downside, hopefully nothing lower than the 50-day line there at 90.59. We haven't been below that 50-day line since the beginning of May, so maybe we will be able to stay above it for a little bit longer. Both the 50 and 200-day lines obviously rising sharply. We've also broken back above the neutral 50 RSI level. We dipped below it at the end of June, then went on to make new highs. Maybe the market will do the same trick this time after the mini rug pull that we had a couple of sessions ago. The DAX is next, and here the position has been of a market that looks as though it's found that uptrend line there from back in basically the spring of last year. The floor of the channel there around 23,400. Above that, the initial resistance, the 50-day line at 24,000 or just below 24,100. RSI still below neutral 50, in fact, well below, and rather weird that we've had these RSI bounces in the mid 30s. Presumably, that's some sign of strength, given that we haven't had any big pullback for this market, and presumably there's still a squeeze going on from the post-April dive and then rebound off the back of the tariffs. But at least while we're above the last month's support there, 23,400, looking for the 50-day line, and then hopefully progress up to the top of that channel, 25,600 by the end of next month. The Dow is next, and here after its little holiday on Monday, we're back in business and trying to establish support on the right side of the 45,000 level, which we're so far doing. Above that and above the 50-day line, which is the sort of trading stop loss, 44,500. Looking for this market to head up to 47,500 by the end of next month or even sooner. And as is in the case with the 50-day line at the DAX and the Dow, well, at least the FTSE and this market, looking for the 50-day line to be the support on any rug pull that this market has. The cryptos are next. First one is Bitcoin, which has been trying to establish a floor at the floor of that rising trend channel from the end of February, beginning of March. 108 now, the level, the support level there at the floor of that channel. We have broken that line of resistance from last month around 109, but appear to be struggling a little bit, both above that and below the falling 50-day line at 115. RSI failing again at the neutral 50 level, so that's in theory the fourth RSI failure we've had near the neutral 50 level, so it's not good and does imply there's a risk of a test of the 200-day moving average at 101 and the old June support as well, which would not be a good look for this market. In fact, those RSI failures not a good look. We had a bit of that in February, March, and although that was the turnaround for the move to new highs, the process of turning around can be quite painful and get rid of one or two weak hands. On to Ethereum, and here we've been hoping, or are hoping, that this market will diverge from the situation at Bitcoin. Here we've got a rising red trend channel there from the beginning of July. Might as well get rid of the other furniture on the chart, and hoping that we'll stay within the parameters of this channel, which is basically 4,300, above 4,300, looking for 5,500 by the end of next month or even sooner. But you can see that is now resistance, quite a lot of resistance towards 4,500. So if you're cautious, you wait for an end of day close above that level, especially while the RSI remains above neutral 50 at 52, which is a positive. Gold is next, and this seems to be the star of the show at the moment. Rumors that President Trump would like the dollar to weaken, and obviously that's working at the moment. 3,800 was our target for the end of next month. It looks like we could actually hit that by the end of this month. Well above the old 3,500 peak, so above 3,500, looking for 3,800, perhaps as soon as the end of this month, although allowing for the end of October as our time frame on that. Moving on to the stocks and starting off with Block Energy, and like many of the stocks today, they seem to have remembered the targets that we set for them. In this case, 1.3 pence was the target there for Block Energy. We obviously peaked today at 1.22. Maybe we'll have another go, but at least while we're above or on the right side of recent broken resistance at 0.95, still looking for 1.3 pence on that. Obviously, the shares have been a tough ride in the past. Equally tough has been Cirata, and here you can see that having another go at bouncing off support. Gap closed buy signal today, so above the top of the gap there at 18.5 pence, looking for at least a retest of the July resistance around 25 pence, maybe even up to the gap at 28 pence by the end of this month. So above 18.5, looking for up to 28 is the best case scenario target. We are backed by an uptrend line in the RSI window, but obviously this has been a rather volatile situation. Onto a stock which has been called up here quite devotedly over recent days, and in fact we're onto this with the unfilled gap to the upside that we had at the end of last month. Best case scenario target was up to the top of that rising black trend channel there from May through 0.8. Above that, now we can now upgrade the target to as high as 1.3 pence by the end of next month. I'm sure everyone and then might be taking credit for that when that happens. Above 0.7 is where we're looking for the shares to go or remain ahead of a 1.3 pence target. Next up is Eco Buildings, where it looks as though the company's finally made it with its big order. Bear trap gap reversal here, which I suppose is the mirror image of the gap down that we had back in May. So bear trap island reversal, and probably now looking, given the checkered history of the company in the past, looking for an end of day close above the 50-day line there, 3.6 pence. If we can get that, best case is up to 6 pence by the end of next month. Although obviously there have been many false dawns here, fundraisers and this and that. Maybe with this announcement today, we are out of the woods. Uptrend line there in the RSI window as well. So hopefully the shares can at least stay above the old July support there at around 3.14 pence. I think if it didn't do that, it would be rather disappointing. On to Empire Metals, which keeps on hitting all the charting targets. The previous one was above 60. We were looking for 75, and obviously that's been exceeded, rather flailing around to try and work out what the next target may be. But at the moment, it looks as though it could be towards the line I'm drawing, so maybe as high as 95 pence by the end of the month, while we hold above 75 pence. But that's just a bit of quick estimation at the moment. We'll have to look at that more properly over the next day or two. Moving on to a stock which I know quite a lot of people are very excited by, which is Geo Exploration. We're nearly up to the target there. We had a 0.42 target at that resistance line there. Once we broke the first target there at 0.24. The current situation is that to get through 0.42, the next level up could be 0.65 by the end of next month. Looks like a nice V-shaped bull flag there. I'm looking for a breakout through 0.4 to give us that 0.65 by the end of next month. Moving along to one of the stars of the show today, probably the star of the show today, which is Gem Resources. It's pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and we already had that red line at the top of that triangle there from back in November as a potential target, 0.78. And we're looking for that while the shares remain above the 200-day moving average at 0.39. So it looks like finally looks like a decent turnaround there for Gem Resources, and perhaps today's news explains why the company was so quiet in recent weeks. Moving on to Kefi, where hopes or fears that the company may not be finally on its way seem to be wrong, largely because they tend to be malicious when it comes to this company. But here we're back at the top of that rising trend channel target called 0.8. Above 0.8 on an end of day close basis, we're looking for as high as 1.1 pence by the end of next month. Ideally, now we remain above the old April resistance there at 0.75. Obviously, we did pull back a bit lower than that, and the bears got a bit excited, but it looks as though they're going to be wrong. Another stock where the bears will hopefully be wrong is Kodal Minerals, and here you can see the shares making a beeline for that red resistance line projection from back in November. That's at 0.49. Looking for that later this month while we're above the 200-day line at 0.35. So hopefully a reasonable setup there. And we also had an RSI rebound above neutral 50, which is hopefully going to be a momentum signal, as was the gap close buy signal that we had on the 29th of August, which combined with the very strong looking candles there, opening at the low, closing the high, showed that where was accumulation ahead of this particular move. What will be interesting, what is interesting already actually, is the way that the 50 and 200 day lines both rising, so that we're going to a golden cross, so that 0.49 target may actually be a little bit modest, maybe 0.55 by the end of next month could be the place this stock is going. I like to look at stocks that nobody else looks at, just so that I can be sure that it's my credit that should be given. Here you can see that we've got a Newmark security, and here you can see that we bounced off the floor of that rising trend channel and bounced off a rising 50-day line. Top of the channel there, heading for the £1.30 level. We'll be looking for that as soon as the end of next month, given the way that we've got such a strong breakout there through 80 pence and an extended consolidation for the shares. Only back below the 200-day line at 74 delays the upside scenario. Looked at Orosur many times in the recent past, and it's nice to see the shares hit that target there that we had at 19 pence, right on the nose. And in fact, it's surprising I haven't actually come up with a new target there, but the new target there will be the upper parallel of that rising trend channel, so heading for 28 pence by the end of next month, while we're above the 19 pence level. Let's see if Orosur can deliver the goods. Multiple RSI rebounds above neutral 50 in the recent past, and so that is looking like a very strong situation indeed. 4 or 5 of them at least on that. On to the last two. First one is Oxford Biodynamics, which has had a rather difficult journey in the recent past, but today looks as though somebody's guessing that something's going to happen. I'm not sure there's been any news so far today, so in fact, there has been news today at 10 o'clock, so you can see that's probably why the shares have gone up since I actually called them out for this list. So current situation, we were looking for to 0.8. I think with that news, we can actually look for a higher target towards a penny by the end of next month if we can remain above the 200-day line there at 0.6. So above 0.6 on an end-of-day close basis, looking for up to a penny on Oxford Biodynamics, which I'm sure will please one or two people. Ideally, we stay on the right side of 0.5 pence, whatever happens now. Finishing off with a company which is having a nice time with the FDA, I think, at the moment, Shield. Here we've bounced just below our first target there, around 6.75 pence. Above that, looking for the next level up, which is up to as high as 10.5 pence by the end of this month. Ideally, we stay on the right side of 6 pence. RSI 50 rebound we've just had, and also been several in the recent past as well. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.